So I made a joke to somebody, and I said that like sometimes I feel like I'm not pathological, I'm just smarter than everybody else, and I actually recognize my behaviors, and which obviously that was more of a joke than anything. I know that that's not true, but the person then replied that everybody's a little narcissistic. You're just narcissism on crack, and I thought, why am I taking that as a compliment? Anyways, Nameless Narcissist here once again. Just a simple man diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, trying to dispel myths and stigma, and give you a little insight on what was on my head. Remember, I'm no clinician, but I read a lot, so take that as you will. If you like my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you don't, there's not really anything I can do, but I'll be very upset with you. I'll hate you. Anyways, so what are we talking about today? Being self-aware. God, these videos are getting hard. The disorder, for me at least in my experience, took on a rather curious form once I was self-aware of my disorder. I want to point out, first and foremost, just because I'm self-aware does not mean that my behaviors changed. They did a little bit, but there's only so much that you can do to fight against your natural impulses. I guess the biggest thing was kind of real. Well, when I first learned about my diagnosis, I thought, oh, so I am special. Which, it's kind of true. But regardless, there's a lot that goes into this, but like, just because I kind of touched on this a little bit in my previous video, but just because you're aware of your mechanisms doesn't make them any less real. I mean, hell, just because you know that you need water to survive, does that make it you need water any less? A little bit of an extreme example, black and white thinking, whatever. But that is what it feels like. It feels like, okay, I know what I'm doing, but like, what's the alternative? Do I just not secure admiration and validation in the hopes that I'll just be fine? But I won't be. I'll be a writhing mess. And then there's that. With work, I have been able to alter a lot of my behaviors over the years. Honestly, I think the biggest thing that made my behaviors less damaging was that I realized, oh, it's easier to secure admiration being altruistic rather than domineering. Well, that's the thing. I still need my admiration and self-esteem regulation. So I just have to find more adaptive ways to go about that. At least that's the strategy I've kind of took. I should probably bring that up in therapy. Maybe that's not the best thing to do. But at the same time, I don't know. What's the alternative? And again, just to feel like shit, hate myself. It feels like that's what a lot of people want me to do, but whatever. Also, another thing that goes into a struggle of being self-aware is the stigma tied to the disorder itself. So, people with MPD obviously have a tendency to hide their self, their true thoughts and feelings and all that jazz, in order to appear, better or more likable, whatever have you in that moment. And we do this pathologically. And so it's very hard for us to be vulnerable. A vulnerability, though, is telling somebody that you have a very highly stigmatized disorder. And so I go and tell people, and then they're like, oh no, that's not like, there's no way you're a narcissist, you're so nice. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm the nicest person there fucking is. I'm the most charismatic and smart too. But you get a lot of, and like, it's obviously that I'm trying to be supporting, right? But it fucking pisses me off, because like, okay, I just showed you this very vulnerable aspect of myself, and now you're saying, oh no, that's not you, right? It just confirms that in my mind that like, oh, like, well, it contributes to a lot of the self-doubt that I have, but like also it just confirms my mind. It's like, oh, they don't want the real me, they just like the performance. You know what I mean? But and then the self-doubt is, when you have MPD and you're aware of it, the self-doubt is all consuming. It's like, am I doing this for attention? Probably. The answer is usually yes. But like, it's constant self-doubt, like, oh, or like, you tell people about your disorder and then they kind of like leverage that against you when you do something that was taken as kind of shitty. And then you, like, in your head, you're like, okay, wait, was I being manipulative? Maybe, it sounds like me, but was I? I didn't feel like I was. And so a lot of self-doubt goes into it in that regard, too. Not to mention, like, since I do have grandiose fantasies about myself, I'm always like, there's a lot of self-doubt about like, oh, am I as smart as I think I am? Am I as attractive as I think I am? And underlying the grandiosity is like, self-esteem issues. I hate myself. So like, and the only time I feel good about myself is when I'm in these grandiose states. So, and that makes it, being aware makes it even harder to maintain any of that grandiosity, which ostensibly is the only time that I really feel good about myself. So that sucks. Yeah, it really does. What else? What are I going to talk about? Fuck. God damn it, I gotta start writing down a script. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm like just so eager to just record things because I got this phone stand. I'm like, well, I'm gonna fucking use it at least. If it's crooked right now, oh, I really hope it's not, because if I would just point that out, everyone else is going to notice it now. Oh, I hate my life. Shit, there was a big one. What do I have to talk about? Yeah, grandiosity. Oh, like, and then there's the issue of, do I even want to get rid of my fucking narcissism? Which may sound, well, okay, like, God, that's so grandiose. I feel like a lot of people want to take that in the wrong way. It's like, it's not because my narcissism makes me feel good about myself. That's like sometimes, and barely ever, but like, not barely ever. Okay, a lot of the times, but like, it doesn't want, whatever, it's not that great. Ostensibly, this disorder is debilitating and awful to live with. But it protects me. You know what I mean? It's not about the fact that it makes me feel good. It's that, like, one, it's something that feeds my sense of uniqueness. So there's that. And two, my tendencies that I have, the manipulativeness and exploitativeness and lack of effective empathy, that is protective. I'm able to do these things and get ahead because I am willing to go to these extremes I wouldn't be able to do if I was a normal person. And if I give up those defenses and those maladaptive traits, what am I left with? I am just a insecure, like, sniveling child. And I hate the idea of being seen like a fucking victim, you know? Like, I had a really bad childhood, whatever, who gives a fuck? And then if you're like, oh, I have PTSD or some shit, and it's like, oh, now, great, now I'm weak and a victim. But with NPD, and why I, like, struggle fighting the stigma sometimes, is that, like, I'm not a victim. I'm the victimizer. And that's preferable to being weak and ineffectual. I'd rather be a monster than that. And so I really fight myself sometimes of like wanting to lean into these behaviors more because I'm like, this is evidence of my superiority, of the fact that I'm powerful, of that I'm effectual. And which is, super unhealthy, obviously. But that's a impulse I have to fight a lot of the times because I can't imagine. I would hate people to see me as fucking weak. And realistically, I am weak. I mean, like, a characteristic of NPD is that we do have a very fragile, grandiose shell. We are very sensitive to criticism. Realistically, we are weak. Which sucks. But the disorder in itself, just with the diagnosis and the stigma, provides a shield against that. God, that's fucking unhealthy and sucks. Because you have this cycle of people who identify with this disorder kind of always having that temptation in order to lean into the stigmatizing aspects of it so that they can maintain their sense of superiority. Which is one of the more harmful things I think about the stigma with NPD is that, like, even when somebody becomes self-aware, they can leverage that stigma in ways that is just like so fucking toxic. I feel like if we had a more realistic view of what my disorder is like, it'd make treatment a lot more effectual. Because right now, you kind of get two responses when it comes to people who become self-aware. And the first one is like, obviously there's people who handle it in a healthy way when they become self-aware. But like, the two things I see way more often is the one that's like, that, as I said, uses it as proof of superiority. And like, because of the stigma around it, it's like, oh, these are like Machiavellian geniuses, basically, is how we're presented in a lot of ways. It's like, yeah, who wouldn't, like, okay, maybe not everybody would want this, but when I hear about some of the like, stereotypes of NPD, I get excited. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm not good at manipulating and using people. Yeah, I am that great. Realistically, I'm probably not. Realistically, nobody with MPD probably is. Yeah, they can cause a lot of harm, and they have a lot of defense mechanisms that can hurt other people. Are we Machiavellian geniuses? Probably not. We're very reactive, honestly. And then there's the other group of people who are like, hear that they're a narcissist, and one, I assume that they just kind of get confused because they know that they hate themselves a lot, and they're like, what the fuck, how am I a narcissist? I fucking despise myself, whatever. But also, because the label right now is so stigmatizing, you aren't telling this person they have a mental condition that they need to treat that's making them suffer. You're telling them, you're an asshole. And who's going to want to get treatment for asshole disorder? Especially people who are prone to shame. Because of these people's stigmatized views on MPD, all they can think is, like, they're trying to protect themselves from that shame, because going to treatment for something like that is admitting, oh yeah, I'm just a bag of shit. Not, oh, I suffer a lot because of this disorder and stuff like that. And then there's a very small subset of people, I would say comparatively, who do lean into the, like, oh my god, and I've fallen into this before too, so don't think I'm judging. But there's, like, that small subset of, like, people who are like, oh, I have an MPD and I will always be miserable. Again, I do that too. I'm not judging. But it's also similarly defensive, because, you know, I suffer more than anybody else, therefore I am strong because I put up with that. Which I think is what a lot of people miss about the suffering. It's not that their suffering is unique. That's not what about it, at least to me, that's appealing, I guess. It's that I suffer so much and I can tolerate it, which means I am better than you. And I feel like that nuance is missed quite a bit when I read some, like, people's opinions on the vulnerable aspects of pathological narcissism. But I'm, again, definitely, for the most part, much more grandiose presenting. At least I like to think I am. Fucking vulnerable narcissists. But yeah, that's just some of the daily struggles I have with being a pathological. Wow, this fucking, you know, I would just, like, made fun of, like, people being like, oh, woe is me. But meanwhile, I'm literally making a video being like, oh, woe is me, I have pathological narcissism. That's fucking hilarious. I can't believe that irony was lost on me until literally, like, the last fucking couple seconds of this video. Jesus Christ. Oh my god, that's, like, how this fucking disorder is, though. Like, it's so, like, you don't realize how, like, even when you're self-aware, you don't realize how your tendencies are basically polluting, like, just the shit that you think and feel are normal in the moment. God. That wasn't a great example of it, because I feel like that wasn't as blatant, but still. Fuck these fucking personality disorders. Jesus Christ. It's just so easy for just fucking slip in there like that. I wonder if, I'm very curious if, I'm really curious if, like, the self-deception is characteristic of MPD, or if it's just characteristic of personality disorders in general, because personally I think it's probably just all personality disorders, but it is associated with MPD so much more. But it's hard to say. I think our proneness to shame probably puts a bias on it to some degree. But yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching. Jesus Christ. Y'all have a good day. Take your fucking meds.